Hi everyone. So we're continuing the supplemental lesson on parallel and perpendicular lines. We've already talked about parallel lines and how they have the exact same slope. Well, now we're going to look at perpendicular lines. Now, what are perpendicular lines? Quite interesting, actually. A lot of students say they're lines that intersect. And they do, but they intersect in a specific way. Okay, so looking at it like this, here's a picture to help. They don't just intersect, they specifically intersect at a right angle. And so what does that tell us about the slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines? Parallel lines are the same. So if one slope's positive, the other is going to be positive. But perpendiculars, in order for them to meet at a right angle, one slope has to be positive while the other is negative. And let's go ahead and write it out here. In a coordinate plane, two lines are perpendicular if their slopes are opposite reciprocal. They are opposite reciprocals. So an example would be if we had a slope that was 3/4 of one line, then the other slope of the other line would have to be the opposite sign, so it would have to be negative, and you would flip the fraction to get the reciprocal. Okay? They have to not just be opposite signs, they also have to be reciprocals. They have to be both. So let's look at a few examples, okay? So if one line has a slope of 2/3, the opposite, since it is positive, the opposite would be negative. And then the reciprocal means that your numerator becomes your denominator and your denominator becomes your numerator. Now pause the video real quick and try the other three and see whether what the new slopes would be, the opposite reciprocal slopes. Hopefully you've tried these three and are now checking your answers. Now with a whole number, it's not a fraction. But remember, we've talked about how whole numbers you can put over 1 because -2 over 1 is the same thing as -2. So since it is negative, our new slope will be positive, and then we flip the numerator and denominator. 1/4, if we were to flip it, first let's change the sign from positive to negative. And then when we flip it, we would get 4 over 1. But remember, 4 divided by 1 is 4. So it's a whole number, -4. And last one, this one's really weird. A lot of people aren't sure what to do when you have a slope of 0. So look at it this way. A slope of 0 is a horizontal line. So what is perpendicular to a horizontal line? What makes a right angle with it? A vertical line. And think about what the slope of a vertical line is. That's right, it's undefined. So the slope would be undefined. Now let's look at some example problems when we would use this. Write the equation of a line perpendicular, very important to note, perpendicular, to the line y equals 4x plus 3, and then it has to pass through the point 8, -1. So let's go ahead and label our point as x1 and y1 because we're going to use point slope form. We have a point, we just need a slope. But here's where most people make their mistakes is that they look at this slope 4 and they use 4. But remember, they shouldn't have the same slope, they're perpendicular. So I need to take that slope, which is really 4 over 1, right? Flip it and change the sign. So my new slope is going to be negative, opposite, and reciprocal, flip. So this is the new slope. Okay. We're going to use the new slope and our point here. So let's go ahead and write our equation. Let's write the formula down. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So y stays the same. y1 is -1. So y minus -1. A double negative makes a plus. The slope, not the old slope, not 4, the new slope, -1/4. x minus, and then x1 is 8. So keep in mind this answer is correct, but your answer choices could also be in y equals mx plus b form. So let's practice once again getting it into y equals mx plus b. If you want to pause it, now would be a good time to see if you know how to do this. So pause the video. Okay guys, let's give it a try. So remember, the first thing we're going to do is the left side will stay the same, but the right side you need to distribute to get rid of the parentheses. So negative 1/4 see. Negative 1/4 times x is negative 1/4 x, and negative 1/4 times negative 8. First of all, a negative times a negative is a positive, and 1/4 of 8 is 2. And then the last step being that we need to get rid of that 1 over there, so the y is alone. 1 minus 1 is 0. Notice our slope doesn't change when you go from one form to the other. Our slope was negative 1/4 at the beginning, and it still should be now. 2 minus 1 is 1. So remember, guys, both of these are correct ways to write it. Now, there's one more on your paper, and I want you to try it on your own. So pause the video. Hopefully you paused the video and are now watching this with me again. And hopefully you've tried it. And you're going to check your answer right now. So we're talking about perpendicular lines, and it's perpendicular to this equation, which means you need to do something to the slope, remember? If I'm not going to use that slope. Perpendicular lines, their slopes are opposite reciprocals. So opposite of negative is positive, and the reciprocal of 1 over 3 is 3 over 1. But keep in mind that is something we can write as a whole number. So that is our slope, 3. Here's our x1 and our y1. So let's write our formula again. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. It really does help to write the formulas out so that you know you're plugging everything in the right spots. So y minus, and y1 is 2. Our slope is 3, x minus, and for those of y'all that have been confused, I write the x minus, and now I'm plugging in x1, which is negative 6. Double negatives are the same thing as a positive. So when I say x minus negative 6, it really means the same thing as x plus 6. Okay? And the last thing that we're going to do here is we're going to solve. Remember, guys, that this is a correct answer also. It's just written in point slope form. So let's write it in slope intercept form now. So let's distribute the 3, which really means multiply. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 6 is 18. And our last step to get y alone is to add 2 to both sides. So y equals 3x plus 20. And remember, once again, these are both correct ways to write the equation. They're just written in different forms. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this extra lesson. I know you don't have to do these lessons, so I appreciate you watching them. And trust me, they will help you on the STAR test. I do have a practice for it also, and I will share it on the Google Classroom. Have a good day, guys. Bye.